Well, US forces in Afghanistan are in the final phase of evacuations from the capital. Just over 1,000 civilians are waiting to be airlifted from Kabul airports. More than 100,000 people have been moved out since the Taliban took over 2 weeks ago. The American troops are the last Western forces to withdraw from Afghanistan by the August 31st deadline. As US forces move out, the Taliban is moving in. The armed group is aiming for a swift handover of the airport. The final evacuations come under the threat of another attack there. US President Joe Biden has warned of a specific, credible threat in the coming hours. But Afghans are still trying to make it to the facility. And Pakistan, that's already hosting millions of Afghan refugees. They're now preparing to receive more. Well, let's speak live now to Charlotte Bellis. She joins us from Kabul. Charlotte, so we understand that even though the clock is counting down, people are still trying to make it to the airport to be airlifted out of the country. Just bring us up to speed with how things are going this hour.
Evacuations are certainly slowing, but people are still trying. This morning, we met with dozens of people just outside our bureau who were trying to get on buses in an effort to get into the airport and on these evacuation flights. But they told us later that they were unsuccessful. They were students coming from American University of Afghanistan. Now, there are certainly fewer flights landing, taking off. As of, if you look at the radar right now, there are no US Air Force flights at Kabul airport. And their allies have gone too. The British Air Force, their last flight took off last night, ending their evacuation mission and also their military presence here over the last 20 years. So as these foreign forces pull out, the Taliban is pushing in. We got exclusive access inside the airport as these final evacuations took place just meters from Taliban fighters.
The Taliban has taken over. Their fighters drive US-made Humvees laden with US-made weapons around the last US military installation in Afghanistan. They look and act like former Afghan government soldiers. The white flag, the only indication this is the Taliban. It has been 20 years since the Taliban controlled Kabul airport. Fighters entered the capital 2 weeks ago and quickly encircled it. The armed group had an agreement with the US that it would remain outside and secure the perimeter until evacuations came to an end. Now, with only 2 days to go, the US footprint is shrinking.
When did you get hold of this area?
In 2 hours.
2 hours ago?
Ago, yes, we come here. 01 Force of Afghanistan is come in the American soldier.
So they've evacuated?
Yes.
Clutching the US-made M4 rifles they've commandeered, Taliban fighters watch as American troops move inside the perimeter, destroy equipment and bus in evacuees.
Behind that door is American soldiers?
That is the door is American and where is we Taliban.
And you are Taliban? And they are in this watchtower also?
That tower is also American soldier.
This is all?
No, they're over there too.
Okay.
Fighters count the number of C-17 aircraft departing from the end of the runway. The Taliban secured the commercial side of the airport almost 2 weeks ago, but only pushed into military areas on Friday night. Their version of special forces, known as the Badri 313 and Victoria Strike Force, are in charge of security.
We are not here to protect the Americans. We are here to prevent looting of this place and the military equipment. The promises we made in Doha, we are standing by them.
These Taliban officials are walking from the neighbouring Ministry of Interior, a compound they now control.
As the US evacuates, the Taliban is taking control of more areas inside the airport. They say they are very happy, but they wouldn't express that on camera because they say, I'm a woman and not dressed appropriately.
Instead, they discuss among themselves how to secure the area and survey the territory they now control.
We have been in war for 20 years, and we believed one day we would get Afghanistan back. These foreign forces who came to Afghanistan could not stop us from getting our country back.
Patiently, they wait for the last American plane to take off.
After 3 days, and with the permission of our commanders, we will push fully inside the airport.
After 20 years, thousands of people killed and billions of dollars spent, the US is leaving Afghanistan. These are the final hours of America's longest war.
Well, Charlotte, the Taliban may now be in control of parts of the airport, but there are still threats, are there not, on that facility?
Yeah, they're essentially having to deal with this threat of ISIL because they're in charge of securing the perimeter, and that is what is under threat. President Biden saying last night, 24 to 36 hours, that there was a highly likely threat of an attack by ISIL at the south entrance, which they're controlling, and also at that northwestern corner where we filmed yesterday. And I can tell you last night that they were incredibly worried. It was very tense. They were trying to hold people back, stop crowds forming, because they knew that that elevated the threat of a repeat of attack like we saw on Thursday.
OK, Charlotte Bellis there, live for us from Kabul. Thank you, Charlotte. Pakistan's security advisor says the number of Afghans crossing into the country is under control. Kamal Haider has more from Islamabad.
Well, there have been reports that there's a number of people that are crossing the Afghan border has increased. We've been in touch with the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, who say they don't see that at the moment. And one of the primary reasons for that is that there was hardly any bloodshed in Afghanistan. Most of the people living along the contiguous areas of Pakistan are ethnically Pashtun. But it is also noteworthy that thousands of Afghans come to Pakistan for medical assistance, despite the fact that the international community has invested billions of dollars. There are no proper facilities, medical facilities, and that forces thousands of Afghans to come and seek help here in Pakistan.
The warning of an imminent attack on Kabul airport comes after the Pentagon said it targeted members of ISIL's wing in Afghanistan in a drone strike on Friday. The strike in Nangarhar province was in response to the Kabul airport attack. Gabriel Elizondo reports from Washington, D.C.
Friday's drone strike that killed 2 ISIL-K members and wounded another was the first retaliatory strike against the group. But according to President Joe Biden, it won't be the last. It's unclear if those killed had a direct role in Thursday's airport attack that killed over 150 Afghans and over a dozen U.S. military personnel. The Pentagon won't release the names of the ISIL-K members they killed, only saying they were planning future attacks.
I am not going to talk about specific capabilities ISIS may have lost in this strike. They lost a planner, and they lost a facilitator, and they've got 1 wounded. And the fact that 2 of these individuals are no longer walking on the face of the earth, that's a good thing. It's a good thing for the people of Afghanistan. It's a good thing for our troops and our forces at that airfield. And I think I'm just going to leave it there.
While the U.S. and the Taliban are coordinating on airport security, that cooperation did not extend to the drone strike. A Taliban spokesperson told Reuters news agency they should have been informed before the airstrike took place. In a statement Saturday afternoon, Biden said the chance of another terrorist attack in the next 24 to 36 hours is very high. It's believed around 4,000 U.S. troops are still at the airport in Kabul, and commanders say despite the risks, the mission continues until the August 31st deadline Biden has put in place.
Threats to our forces and to this operation remain real and significant. I'm sure you can appreciate that. And now as the military mission begins to end in Kabul, thousands of service members are working across the globe and within the United States to complete this incredibly important mission.
Caught in the middle, innocent Afghan civilians. At an airport near Washington on Saturday, Afghan evacuees continued to arrive in America after an arduous journey.
Well, I would say last 6 or 7 days have been the toughest days of my life, honestly. I don't want to lie, or I don't want to exaggerate, but it is how it is. Things are really bad all around the airport, all the entrances. And you kind of feel lucky if you can get just through those gates.
Over the weekend, America was learning more of the U.S. service members killed in the suicide attack. Max Soviak, a Navy medic, was one of them. He was only 2 years old when the U.S. invaded Afghanistan in 2001. Friends and family back in his hometown of Ohio are grieving his death.
He was just a really good kid, you know, that everybody liked. Everybody loves the family. Just very well respected.
The U.S. military pullout from Afghanistan was measured in months and then weeks, and now it's down to days. And it could be the most unpredictable and dangerous phase of all, with President Biden simultaneously warning Americans that there could be more attacks against U.S. troops in Kabul, while also more strikes against those the U.S. says is responsible. Gabriel Elizondo, Al Jazeera,